This place reminds me of those early days in Zimbabwe, Lake Kariba, which was really where the work began, when I really had no idea how to begin.
Anne Cotton is the founder of the Campaign for Female Education, or Camfed. This school in rural Tanzania is among many supported by the organisation, which is dedicated to providing education for girls in sub-Saharan Africa.
When I first went to the village of Mola, I saw a level of poverty that I'd never witnessed before. I saw mothers were really struggling to feed their children, really struggling if their children had ill health. And that really touched me.
In sub-Saharan Africa, 24 million girls can't afford to go to school.
The major challenge is our hard life, because my father is unable to pay all the costs of my education. I thank Camfed for paying my school fees.
In 1991, Anne went on a research trip to Zimbabwe to investigate why so few girls were going to school. What she found was that families, faced with a choice, had favoured boys getting an education, as it was felt they had a better chance of getting a paid job after leaving school.
Why were you selected as the drummer? Oh, it's a difficult word. In the early stages in the community of Mola, I realised that girls had not been asked what they wanted to do in the future. So when I began to ask them what their aspirations were, I met really quite blank faces and silence. I had to start at a different point, and I had to learn with them.
That cooperation has transformed the situation for girls in Mola. Now they're going to school and gaining the confidence to speak their minds.
I want to be a teacher because I want to educate other people. I want to be a pilot because I would like to be a role model in the society.
I want to be an engineer because to solve the problem facing in the society like electricity.
I want to be a teacher mentor because I want to help the students who live in bad conditions.
Camfed was established in 1993, and since then more than 3 million children in the poorest areas of Ghana, Malawi, Tanzania, Zambia and Zimbabwe have benefited from its bursary scheme. That provides school fees, teaching resources, boarding facilities, teacher training and various basic needs. It's partnered with around 6,000 schools like this one, boosting the overall education level. After returning from her research trip in Africa, Anne was determined to help disadvantaged girls go to school. Reflecting on the best models for education in the region, she realised she had to capitalise on expertise within the local community. But convincing people outside Africa to help was a major struggle.
In the early days, the challenge to get people to support the idea was in the preconception. The preconception widely held was that girls were not at school because of the resistance of families to the education of girls. My role was to create that bridge and to explain that the desire for education is there. The social and economic circumstances in which people were living preempted their ability to send their daughters to school.
There were humble beginnings for Anne's ambitious project. Fundraising for the first 32 girls in the programme came through grassroots efforts like a cake stall at the local market in Cambridge. Donations also flowed in from friends and charities. Gradually, the support network grew.
Of course, in the early stages, I had no track record. I had no history in international development. I had no data because girls were only just going in to the programme. So really, people had to take me on trust. My family was very supportive, and I'll always remember my daughter sitting on this sofa with me, actually, and before I was leaving once for Zimbabwe and saying, "Mummy, if anything happens to you, I will carry on the work." And I thought, oh dear.
Over the years, this native of South Wales has won multiple accolades for her pioneering work in education, including an honorary doctorate from Cambridge and an OBE, one of the UK's highest civic honours. The most recent tribute is the 2014 WISE Prize from the World Innovation Summit for Education in Doha.
The Camfed model, I think, is an influential model now. People are looking at it. They're looking at our governance. They're looking at our child protection. And so the work itself, beyond the action in Africa, is influencing how, I think, the international development community thinks. And we want to grow. We want to grow that influence.
Anne continues to stress the importance of the input from the local communities with which Camfed works. They help select the girls for the bursary scheme. Now there are around 112,000 community volunteers across Africa. But diversity is key, and each support scheme is as individual as the community it serves.
We work very much as equal partners, and we work together as a movement around supporting girls through school, and we recognise that we have different strengths, different opportunities to bring to the table in order to multiply the resources that are available to support the most vulnerable children to go through school.
Lydia is one of many local women who've thrived as a result of their collaboration with Camfed. She lost her mother at an early age, and her father couldn't afford her education. Today, she's a Camfed co-director in Tanzania.
We count every girl. We listen to every girl. We have a system that goes to an individual girl and looking at what exactly she needs.
Another core value for Camfed is what it calls the virtuous cycle of empowerment.
When we take action, I think we think about how can we maximize the value of this action. We don't work in short cycles. We don't believe that chronic poverty is going to be addressed by 3 or 5 year cycles. We work in the long term. We work in communities for generation. And we don't work in a fragmented way. We work in a very holistic way.
After they finish school, there's further support for the girls through the CAMA network, a group of around 25,000 Camfed alumni.
CAMA really, I think, is the future for all of us, because this is a network of extraordinary young women, all of whom were born into very poor circumstances, all of whom were unable to go to school because their families were unable to pay. And they have gone through primary and secondary education. Many of them are at tertiary level. Many of them are now in careers. They are the future. They are the change makers. And already they are transforming their families, their villages, and indeed their nations and the world.
Among Camfed's goals for the future is to support 1 million girls through secondary education who will then become leaders of change in Africa.
When people tell you it can't be done, hold on to your vision, hold on to your passion, and believe in yourself. But in your success, as you move on in life, remember that who you are also depends on what you do with that success.